What's up, Lego builders? Welcome back to Coconut Brick Studios for another week of building Cato Neimoidia. This week, as promised, I'm finally going to be working on the city in earnest. I need to figure out how I'm going to get that curved shape on the city, kind of like almost like a crescent moon, because I have a rough idea of what I want to do. I'm going to be using ball joints, but between a rough idea and then a finished technique, so there's little things that I need to work out. But I'm thinking about doing like a very gradual slope in different sections and connecting all these different sections together to create a pretty gradual slope, because I don't want this thing to be too sloped, right? Obviously, people are still going to need to be able to walk on the city. I need to be able to build buildings that are going to stand upright. And I just, I want the overall look of the city to be as accurate as possible to the cities on Cato Neimoidia. I'm also going to be figuring out the size of the city. I'm still not quite there with how long it needs to be. I think I might need to make it even a little bit longer, which is going to be crazy because that would mean making the mock itself even longer. All that being said, I've got some great stuff for you today. It's time to get building. Here's a look at the prototype bridge city that I am working on this week. You can see it looks pretty similar to the one that I used to test the weight capacity and strength of the mock, the cables and the walls and stuff. However, this one's going to be a little different in the fact that it's going to have a curve to it. What I'm trying to do now is test and figure out how to get that curve look and figure out like how much of a curve I can achieve and how much I want, because I'm still not 100% sure how sloped I want this thing to be. Mostly it's going to go off of like what I test and see and what looks good and like what looks accurate compared to the actual city. While this bridge looks similar to the first one I built, this one is actually going to have a slight curve to each of those 16 by 16 plates. So it's not going to be a super big curve per each one, but I'm kind of hoping, to add them all together, and then each little curve is going to combine to create a fairly decent crescent look. Kind of like, the curvature of the Earth. It's so vast that us standing on the ground, we can't really see or feel it. But if you were to step back from a distance and then add it all together, you create a circular shape. Okay, everyone, here's the finished prototype bridge that I was working on. So you can kind of see better now what I'm doing here. I've got the ball joint connection in the middle of these two plates kind of sandwiched in there, and you can see you get a slight bend on each ball joint. So because of the length of this ball and joint, it puts a little bit of a gap between the plates, which allows you to get a little bit of an angle, which isn't much, but if you hook a bunch of them together, you actually get a kind of pretty decent little curve going on there. I don't know if it's going to be enough. That's what I'm going to figure out next. I'm going to try and hook it up to the cables and see A, if I made it long enough, and B, if that curve is steep enough, because I don't want it to be too shallow and I don't want it to be too steep. So I got to find that sweet spot where it's pretty subtle, because if I can get this to work, it'll work out really nice for building buildings on top, just because this is such a subtle curve, kind of like the curvature of the Earth. It's so vast and so gradual that we as humans don't notice it. So I'm kind of hoping I can achieve something similar here with this city, to where it's so long and the curve so gradual, I can just build the buildings on here without too much lean, too much crookedness, too many problems. Oh, and before I forget, I finally got a ton of cheese slopes in. And you can see I've got slopes along the entire side of this pad as well as the entire top. I got this whole side tiled off. It looks pretty nice. I'm glad to finally have it finished so I can see like what it actually looks like. The only thing I don't like is this transition right here. You can see the slopes kind of just stop, and there's this little jagged, and there's this little open space. I'm not sure what I'm going to do there yet. I was also able to get pretty much all of these cable links sloped off. I just need some tiles on the top. So yeah, things are finally coming together for these pads, as far as like getting tiled off and sloped, because for a while they looked pretty damaged and kind of half built. I had a package come in today. I was actually hoping to do more this week. I have 2, I think maybe 3 packages on the way. All were ordered like, a while ago, and then I ended up ordering this one on Monday, and it got here before all of the others, which was kind of weird. This is definitely one of the weirder hauls I've gotten in a while. So it's this bag, and then all of the pieces are just stuffed in the bag. So I have all different kinds of stuff. You can see I've got heads, I've got an axe blade there, clip, got some plate and some ball joints, Republic logo. It's all just dumped in here. I'm a little concerned because I did order a cape, and I'm worried that it's just going to be like, oh, yep, there it is. Literally, look at this. They just dumped the cape in with the rest of the bricks. Like, they didn't even put it in a plastic bag. Luckily, it doesn't look too damaged. Like, it looks a little, you know, rumpled and a little dirty, but I think that just might be because it's an old cape. But what is this? So it turns out there's one plastic bag in the order, and it's got the cheese slopes, the olive green cheese slopes in it. You would think this dark green cape would be the one thing in the bag, but oh well. I think looks like so far everything's here that I wanted. I'm glad to get these in because these are actually going to be at the end of each city. I want my city to be sloped at the end. I don't want it to just be like a rough 90. I don't want it to be just be a 90-degree angle. So I'm going to go with something probably like this. I don't know. I haven't figured out the design, but it's going to be angled at the ends. That's pretty much everything for this haul, though, that I wanted to point out. I got some more ball joints and stuff in, which is good. And then some more stuff for my medieval mock. We've got some round 2x2 and 1x1 plates. Well, that wraps up another week of building Cato Neimoidia. I'm really happy with what I got done this week, especially with this city. You know, I'm kind of starting a new phase of Cato Neimoidia, the city phase, and the beginning of each phase is always challenging for me because there's so much that needs to get done, so much that needs to be planned and figured out that it can be intimidating to start, and sometimes I'll put it off. So I'm glad to have finally taken the plunge and like officially, you know, started it and just be like, all right, I'm just going to focus on this part now, just going to focus on this part. And I think really what I'm going to do right now is just focus on getting the size of the city figured out, as well as like how I'm going to get that curve, because once I get those figured out, then it's just going to be me actually building the city, which I personally feel like won't be as challenging to me. But that's pretty much everything I have to say, and it's time to hit the outro. I hope you guys enjoyed this week of building Cato Neimoidia, and I hope you like the city. I really like the city. The curvature of the bridge area, the bridge city looks really cool. I'm really happy with how that turned out. It's not finished. I still need to kind of figure out if I want to make that curve a little bit more pronounced or not. I think maybe I will. I'm going to have to look at some more reference material and kind of compare with what I have. And I feel like I'm finally really happy with the length of my mock. Pretty much this entire mock, I've slowly been making it longer, as you guys remember. I've been consistently adding length to the mock as I've continued to progress, as I've seen like, okay, the cables are this long. That means the city's going to need to be this long. So I need to make the mock this much longer, and then adding more length to the city in order to have it higher up off the ground, because I felt like that was very important. I feel like it gives the mock a lot more height to have the city higher up off the kind of base plate area of the mock. Plus, you know, I've got these two giant cliffs on either side. I don't want them to be mashed together. There needs to be a good little span in between the two of them. Next week, I am going to be installing the table to officially make this mock longer. Well, that wraps up this week. Next week, I am going to be working on making the city wider and showing you guys how wide it's going to be, as well as continuing to put it together and just figure out what it's going to look like. I'll probably have some other stuff in there too, maybe some work on the bunker. All that being said, don't forget to like this video, and of course, don't forget to let me know what you thought about this update down below in the comments. And if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing so you don't miss out on any future content. But until next time, happy building.